Have you ever just stopped and looked at your phone screen and wondered, how is it possible to show so many different colors? It really does feel like magic, right? But it's actually this brilliant piece of engineering that, and this is the cool part, mirrors our own biology. So today, we're going to decode the science behind all that digital color. Let's dive in. I mean, we are surrounded by images just like this one, literally bursting with millions and millions of colors. But how do our devices actually create this incredible richness? It's not like they have a tiny little paint set inside with an infinite number of tubes, right? So that's really the big question we're asking. How do these machines build an entire universe of color from what is actually a very, very limited palette? Well, the answer is a pretty fascinating mix of some simple physics and the, frankly, complex biology of how we see. Okay, so first up, let's talk about screens. Your phone screen, your monitor, your TV. Unlike a piece of paper that just reflects light, a screen actually emits light. And that fundamental difference, that is the absolute key to understanding digital color. We're not mixing pigments here. We are literally painting with light. I want you to imagine you've got 3 spotlights in a dark room. One red, one green, and one blue. Now, as you shine them on a wall and start overlapping them, you create brand new colors. Red and green, they make yellow. Blue and red, magenta. This whole concept is called the additive color model, and it's the exact same principle our screens use, just with millions of tiny red, green, and blue lights to create every single color you see. And when all 3 are on at full blast, you get pure, bright white. So this system, this whole idea, has a name. It's the RGB color model, red, green, blue. And it is the bedrock of pretty much every digital display out there. Every single color on the screen you're watching right now is just a very specific recipe of red, green, and blue light. You can actually picture this system as a 3-dimensional cube. It's a color space. So down in one corner, you've got pure black. That's no light at all. Then, all the way in the opposite corner, you've got pure white, all 3 colors cranked up to the max. And every other possible color you can imagine is just a unique point somewhere inside that cube, a precise mix of red, green, and blue. So just how many colors can we whip up with this system? Well, in a standard digital image, each of those 3 primary colors, red, green, and blue, has 256 possible levels of brightness. You can think of it like a dimmer switch with 256 little notches on it. So when you multiply all the possibilities, that's 256 shades of red, times 256 of green, times 256 of blue, you get this number. Over 16.7 million distinct colors, all from just 3 basic ingredients. It's kind of mind-blowing. All right, so that explains how our screens work. But what about printing? What happens when we want to take that image from our pixels and put it on paper? Well, we can't use light anymore. Now we have to use ink. And that, my friends, changes absolutely everything. Here's the fundamental difference you have to grasp. Screens start with a black background and they add light to create color. Paper, on the other hand, starts with a white background and the ink you put on it subtracts light. And that is the whole basis for our next color model. This is the subtractive color model. Here, the primary colors are cyan, magenta, and yellow. So when white light from a lamp hits, say some cyan ink on the page, that ink soaks up the red light and reflects the green and blue light back to your eyes, which our brain sees as cyan. And in theory, if you mix all 3 of those inks together, they should absorb all the light and give you black. Yeah, but in the real world, it doesn't quite work out that way. The inks we use just aren't perfectly pure, so when you mix them all together, you don't get a nice, crisp black. Instead, you get this muddy-looking brown. And if you're trying to print sharp, clean text, that is a big, big problem. So what's the solution? It's actually incredibly simple. You just add a separate black ink. And that gives us the CMYK model. The K actually stands for key, which is a printing term for the black plate. Not only does this give us that deep, true black we want, but it's also a clever way to save on the more expensive colored inks. So, okay, we've got 2 different models for creating color, RGB for screens and CMYK for ink. But why these specific primary colors? Why red, green, and blue? The answer, and this is where it gets really cool, has nothing to do with technology. It has everything to do with our own biology. You know, as Isaac Newton famously showed with a prism, the white light that's all around us is not actually white. It's a mix of every color in the rainbow, the entire spectrum. So the color of any object is just determined by which of those colors it reflects back into our eyes. Okay, now here is the amazing part. The back of your eye, the retina, is lined with these incredible light-sensitive cells called cones. And it turns out we have 3 different types of cones, and each type is most sensitive to a very specific wavelength of light. And can you guess which ones? Yep, their sensitivities peak at red, green, and blue. Now check out this chart, because this is wild. It shows the distribution of those cones in our eyes. As you can see, we are dominated by red and green sensitive cones. But what is truly staggering is that only about 2%, just 2% of our cones are sensitive to blue light. Our entire perception of the color blue comes from this tiny, tiny fraction of cells. So here it is. This is the big takeaway. Our screens use red, green, and blue light for one simple reason, because our eyes have red, green, and blue cones. The entire foundation of digital color is a direct reflection of our own biology. We've literally engineered our technology to speak the language that our eyes already understand. But let's be honest, these models, RGB and CMYK, they're for machines. They're not how you and I talk about color, right? We describe color in a much more intuitive way. And guess what? There's a model for that too. So first, you've got hue. This is what we normally just call color. It's that pure, dominant shade that we see. Fire engine red, lemon yellow, sky blue. That's the hue. Then there's saturation. This is basically the intensity or the purity of the color. A fully saturated red is that really rich, deep, vibrant red. But as you start to mix in white, the saturation goes down and that red turns into a much softer shade, like pink. And finally, there's brightness. And this one's easy. It's just how light or dark a color is. So together, hue, saturation, and brightness give us a much more human-friendly way to talk about the incredible world of color. And understanding how we perceive color has some amazing real-world applications, like a technique called pseudo-color imaging. Here's the thing. Our eyes are actually not that great at telling the difference between shades of gray. We can only distinguish maybe a couple dozen. But colors, we can see thousands of different colors. So by assigning specific colors to different shades of gray in, say, a medical scan or a satellite photo, we can suddenly reveal all these hidden details that were otherwise completely invisible. It's like using color to uncover a secret reality. So the next time you're just scrolling on your phone or watching a movie, remember that incredible journey of light happening in an instant, from the display to your eye to your brain. You're not just seeing colors. You're experiencing this beautiful symphony of technology and biology working together in perfect harmony. So now that you know the code behind the color, how are you going to see the world differently?